on everybody, it's your boy Itz-Beez-Da TrackStar and welcome back to Dancehall Masterclass Chapter 5 Sampling. Right, so let's continue on exploring the options of the sampler window here. So going from left to right, we have pitch, we have multiplicator. We can't talk all of a sudden. So pitch, multiplicator, and time. Cool. And then we have mode, which is already set to stretch from the last video. Cool. So the pitch, it allows you, just like it says, to change the pitch of the sample. So if we wanted to raise this up 12 cents, not much of a difference. But if we want to raise this up like 124 or whatever, or we could lower it. So a situation where this would come in handy is basically if you have another loop and that loop is very bright and this is also very bright and it's not really fitting as good as you want, you could then just tweak the pitch and, you know, see if you can get a darker sound to kind of blend more with that brighter sample. Moving on. Multiplicator is basically a way how you can, and there's two ways to use the multiplicator. There's a manual way and then kind of an automatical way, which both are kind of manual, but you'll see what I mean. So basically you can use this knob to stretch the sample, right? So if I were to, so basically you can double the sample, you know, or double the time that the sample plays. Cool. So if you hold on to control and use the mouse wheel, you can do incremental moves like this, where you can just slowly jump until you get all the way out to the 8th bar. Let's change this to auto. Right. Let's put this to none or reset. You know, so like I said, if you use the mouse wheel, you can then just stretch the file out until you have it lining up. We can just come in now and, you know, stretch this ourselves to line it up. So basically, another way that you can do that is just like I just did. Just come in and stretch it yourself. But like I said, you have to have stretch turned on up at the top. So two ways to do that. You either use this or use just the clip itself and stretch it out. The thing is though, look, if you use this here and then try to stretch the clip, notice it resets the multiplicator. That's because they are not functioning as the same thing. They do the same thing, but they're not functioning as the same thing. Cool. So next we have time. And I touched on time in the very first video. Basically, it's saying how long or short you want this clip to play. So we could go 1 beat, which would just sound absolutely ridiculous. You know, we could go 2 beats, still wouldn't sound good. We could go 2 bars. Better but not great. 3 bars, we could go 4 bars. You know, so basically it's just adjusting the length of time that the sample plays. You could also right click and go to project tempo. But as you can see, it stretches the sample over the line. And the reason why it does that is because, remember, we are not at the tempo of the sample, which is 100. We are in a different tempo, which is 102. So the best thing to do is to just right click and instead of project tempo, put 4 bars. And then that will automatically stretch the sample to fit within 4 bars. Cool. So now let's talk about these modes, right? Like I said, the one that I use the most is auto. But just to give a quick and a brief rundown of all of the modes and what they are best suited for, you know, we'll take a look at it. So let's get started. So the first one is resample. This is what will be loaded by default. So basically, resample won't do anything as far as time stretching, So no matter how far I stretch this out, resample will never adjust the pitch to compensate for the stretching. It will just either sound worse or better depending on how far you stretch it. So something like this would sound terrible and it's too slow. And then something like this would sound too fast, you know. So that's resample. Typically when we use drum samples, so if we were to just load up any drum sample, let's go kick or anything, it doesn't matter. Right click, open a new channel, automatically it's set to resample because you don't need to do anything to it. It's just gonna play how it's gonna play. You know what I mean? But we're sampling, so there are different modes, so that is resample. Next, we have stretch. Alright, so let's reset this clip to 4 bars. And now we have stretch selected. So let's right click on tempo and create an automation clip. So with stretch, it's best suited for vocals or rhythmic samples, as it will help them stay in key and in time while the beat or the song is being automated, like the tempo is being automated, because there are songs that have tempo automation. So to demonstrate what I'm talking about, so let's create a few tempo changes. So let's do like a up here. Let's do some kind of drastic here. Something like that. So we have tempo going like all over the place, right? So if we play now with stretch on, this clip should automatically adjust to any changes in the tempo. Let's go. And there's no like pitch drifting or anything like that. If we take it out of stretch and put it in resample now, it sounds like shit, you know. So like I said, that's where stretch comes in very, very handy when you have, you know, a lot of automation, especially if you have tempo automation. So let's move on to the next, which is E3 generic. All right, so this stretch mode, or just this mode, E3 generic, does not operate with tempo changes, right? So if I were to play, you know, so it won't act on that. It will ignore tempo changes. It won't try to compensate for anything. So what's powerful about the E3 modes, generic and mono, is that when you have a very complex sample and you want to, you know, stretch it or whatever, using E3, it will take more time than putting it on auto. So let's switch this from E3 to auto. And as you can see, the auto has a different waveform shape than the E3. The reason for that, like I said, is E3 is more accurate, but it takes more time to process the sample just for the first time, because it's not like it's constantly processing the sample. It only processes the sample one time. So it's better if you have more complex samples. But if you're just doing a regular simple sample like this, your best bet is just to use auto. E3 mono is better for mono signals like vocals, you know, or a kick drum, or, you know, something like that, something very monophonic, you know, and it works the same as the E3 generic, because it's, once again, very accurate, you know, and much better, much more accuracy is provided than with the with this set to auto. But like I said, more than likely you'll always probably end up using auto, because a lot of the times I don't really even think about the other modes because auto always does the job for me. So let's delete this tempo clip and move on into the next mode. All right, so let's delete that. Yes, and instead of going into the special slice stretch and slice map, we'll skip those. And the reason why we'll skip those is because they have to do with Slice X, the VST. So it would be unfair to try to explain what they do without showing what they do in Slice X. And I have never ever used Slice X in a dancehall rhythm. So we will skip that for right now. You will absolutely not be missing anything. You understand what I'm saying? So we'll pass over that. As far as the legacy elastic, basically it's just the same as the E3. They probably were using a different algorithm, but they will do the exact same thing. Once again, like I said, you will typically only use auto, but knowing that or knowing what these other modes do, maybe sometimes you will think of it and use those other modes. So that is that. Going through the modes, time stretching options in FL Studio. In the next video, we'll get a new sample and then we'll start to discover how to, you know, break down a sample and, you know, how to try to recreate the chord progression of a sample and different tools that you can use to help guide you in the right direction. So until next time, it's your boy Itz-Beez-Da, the TrackStar. Peace.